Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Iron Purpose Podcast. Today, I am by myself, and we're just going to do a JABS episode today. And, I'm not going to say just because I think they're really important. For myself, probably most importantly, it gives me an opportunity to kind of speak what's on my mind and kind of do a little bit of journaling via recording and then listening to it later on as I edit it. But something that's just been on my mind recently and specifically today. But before I get into that, I just want to make just a disclaimer and a reminder to everybody that I am no professional at this by any means. I am not an expert in these topics. I am not a pastor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a physical fitness trainer. I'm just a guy trying to figure out life just like anybody else would be. And that's something that I tell the some of the guys in the jail and the impact program when I'm up there facilitating conversations in our impact program. I make sure to let them know that I'm not a professional at any of these things, but I'm just a guy, just like everybody else watching, male or female. We're just human beings trying to figure out life together. And the more we talk about it, the more perspectives that we get on these different topics, the more we learn. So feel free to throw a question out there. Feel free to throw a comment on here. Any feedback, any opinions, whether it's you agree or you disagree, I would like to hear about it just because, like I said, that's how we grow and that's how we learn. And the more we talk about it, the different perspectives we get. And it's like, I never thought of that when it comes to this topic. Wow, I'm going to apply that to my life and I'm going to be a better human, a better human being as a result. So that's the goal. This is me just getting my opinions out there and speaking my mind, and hopefully somebody can relate to it and learn from it. But I was at the jail today and I thought of calmness, how important it is, and how the difference between myself in there as a correctional officer and the people in there who are incarcerated is a decision that they made, a decision that they acted on. And I think a lot of times when we're faced with making decisions, a lot of times it comes in split second scenarios and emotions are charged and irrational things happen, irrational decisions are made, and that ends up with people being in jail. And it really got me thinking how some of these people are older than I am, some of them are younger than I am, some of them are from different walks of life, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And it reminded me of a road driving. And I gave this quote sometime. I was like, "Yeah, we were, everybody's on the same path. Shout out Rascal Flats. Life is a highway, and we're all driving it. We're all cruising along, and we're just at different areas of it." And somebody else pointed out, yes, we are all at different distances in that regard, but we are all the same distance from the ditch. We are all one decision away from veering off and making a decision that will drastically alter the trajectory of our life. And it just really got me thinking about how important it is to remain calm in so many different situations and what we could benefit from by learning how to remain calm and how to stay calm. And it also got me thinking about how people say, hey, you need to calm down, or hey, just relax, calm, chill. Like, it's often perceived as something very negative. Like, for one, will say I do not like when people tell me to calm down. And my wife would say the same. If it ever slips out of my mouth, it just throws fuel onto the fire. It makes things a lot worse. And I don't know if it's because it's true that we do need to calm down and we do need to relax and breathe and respond rather than react in those situations. Um, but it'd be interesting to hear your feedback on why you think that hearing calm down makes you more upset and not, in fact, calm down, when in reality, it is what needs to happen in situations. And I'll be the first to tell myself that. If I'm getting amped up and somebody were telling me to calm down, it would upset me. But in all reality, it's probably the best advice I could be getting in that moment or in that situation. And speaking of relationships, I read a quote here, and I got my notes here. So if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes. But there's a quote that says, "Speak angry, and you'll make the best speech you'll ever regret." That's by Ambrose Bierce. Earlier, I mentioned adding fuel to the fire. If you're in an argument with your significant other, with your spouse, with your coworkers, friends, family, whatever it is, a lot of times, sure, there are good reasons to have an argument, but when it comes to voicing your opinion, a lot of times we start to get heated, and our voices start to get loud, and we start to get very passionate about what we're arguing about, and stuff starts to come out, and all of a sudden it's like, now I'm just trying to win this argument for the sake of winning it, even if I'm wrong. And emotions just get so tied into it that you're just literally adding fuel onto the fire. You're throwing gasoline on this fire. And it's not until afterwards that you sit there and go, man, yeah, that was not fun. why did I do that? Why did I say those things? Why did I feel that way towards my brother or towards my family member, or my wife or my parents, whatever it may be. And a lot of times in those situations, if we just stop and take a deep breath, or we could, that same response of stopping and taking that deep breath is letting that fire just chill, or maybe if it's even extinguishing it completely. And I can think of a time when Courtney and I were getting in an argument. It was about something silly. We were both tired and we were both just had a long day or whatever it was. And I was vacuuming upstairs and she was doing the dishes. And, um, we started going back and forth, kind of chirping back and forth at each other. And it started to get a little heated. I could start to feel myself throwing fuel on the fire, and I could start to see her do the same with the gasoline. We're getting ready to just dump it on there, let this whole thing blaze. I just shut the vacuum off and I was talking to her. And for some reason, I got this just feeling in my head of just let it go, dude. Whatever it is, just you can be wrong. Just ride this one out. It's gonna be fine. But just instead of saying what you want to say what you should say instead. And a lot of times we want to have that last little jab in there, and to win the argument or whatever that may feel like. I was talking down because I was upstairs. I was talking down at her, and I was like, why do you always have to? And like I amped it up as if I was gonna say something really negative. And I was like, why do you always have to look so dang beautiful? And she stopped and like looked up at me and was like, what? And immediately, big smile, boom. And it just completely changed the tone of the rest of the evening. We forgot what we were even arguing about in the first place, or what we were bickering about back and forth. Just that little, why do you always look so dang beautiful? And I could still see her face kind of lighten up. But taking that second while I'm sitting there to just split second think, don't just start spewing, think, how can you change this from turning into something really bad? How can you prevent it from getting a lot worse and saying something that you're going to regret over nothing? And it ended up being, just perfect 180 turnaround. We finished up chores, and like I said, we had a very good rest of our evening. But it could have gone a lot worse. And there has been times where I hadn't done that, whether it was with my friends, my family, even in my relationship with my wife, where I've said something and end up going downstairs afterwards to just kind of cool off and going, man, this stinks. Like, this is not a good feeling. And why did I say that? Why did I feel that way? Why was I so caught up in my emotions? And you just sometimes I just sit there on the ground and I think, what am I doing? And I have to give myself grace in those moments and understand that frustration, it's just part of life. And sometimes we react to it. And that's what I've done before. And in those feelings, in those moments of being down and feeling sad about it, it's like, I don't have to feel this way. I'm the one that caused this. And in the future, when we're starting to argue and where I'm starting to get my emotions tied in with whatever it is, even like I said, even my brothers, we'll chirp back and forth at each other, and then later on go, man, why'd I say that? That didn't feel very good. Like, we don't have to feel that way. We're the ones that put ourselves in those own situations. Even if people are chirping at us, even if they are saying things, you don't have to say it back. You can be rational. You can say, hey, okay, let's just take a step back. I'm sorry for my involvement in this. How can we fix this as adults? Talking it over, letting our emotions get away from us. Let's hone it back in. Take a deep breath, calm down, and figure this out together. That way we don't have to be in these situations where it's awkward and we both feel bad. Put the gasoline away and just take a deep breath. And I feel so much better after those times, even if it is swallowing my pride and going, okay, yeah, I'm wrong. Whether it's with my brothers, my coworkers, I admit, all right, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. It's a weight off your shoulder. And now you can enter into that conversation again calmly. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And I think of times where being gentle, like I said in the last scenario, the last story, where I amped it up like I was going to say something, and she was ready for it. It came out gentle instead. Why do you always got to look so beautiful? It was a gentle, calm compliment rather than a harsh, stabbing remark that would be just annoying and detrimental to the rest of the evening. But I was also thinking of scenarios where that's not always going to be the case. That's not always going to be the right thing to do. Working in the jail, I'm going to have people that come in who are high, who are intoxicated, who are upset, who are just strung out, who knows, mental health issues, and they're going to want to be fighting. And there's been times where we're standing at a door and somebody has something and they want to use it to harm us. We have to go in there and get that item from them. And I can stand at that door all day long and try to be calm and say, hey, let's work this out, man. It's going to be all right. And I'm not going to get the desired response. There's within use of force, within defensive tactics in law enforcement, there is a use of force continuum where you start with just your officer presence. You start with using your words and you're talking to people, and you have to escalate it as theirs escalates as well. If somebody's coming at me to attack me, I can't say, hey man, it's going to be okay. Like, there's times where you have to just go. And it's not necessarily the compliment or the kind words that are coming out, but it's the calmness within my heart and within my mind that needs to be prevalent in those situations. I think of a time where we did, like I said, had to go to a door to remove some items from an inmate who was in a cell, and he was threatening to use them against us, and he was going to harm us, and so we had to go in there, and it went from trying to talk to him, just being at the door saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. You need to do what we say. Otherwise, this is the next steps that we're going to have to take. And in those moments, it gets pretty, amped up. You can feel your heart rate start to go. You can start to hear it in your mind. And you have to start taking deep breaths to stay calm, because within that fire, within that storm, you have to be able to operate at a calm, cool, collective level. They call it condition black, is when you get to the point to where you are completely lost. You've completely let go of everything, and you've pretty much shut off your humanity, and you've gone to this condition black of just existing. And if we can't control our emotions, if we can't control our breathing, we get to that point where we get the tunnel vision goes way down. You can't really function. You lose your fine motor skills. You lose the ability to just even talk correctly. And in those situations, it could cost you your life in the jail, in a law enforcement scenario. Not everybody's going to have that scenario, but maybe you're driving home from work and there's a road rage incident, or maybe you're at a bar out with friends or something, and somebody gets into a fight, and all of a sudden they're coming at you and they're trying to attack you. They're trying to attack your friends or your family. Remaining calm in those situations is going to be the best option. When you start to panic, that's when things start to fall apart. But in the scenario where we went into that cell to get that item from that individual, it took an inner peace, it took a calmness to be able to operate at a level that resolved the situation, and we were able to get out of there, and nobody was injured, and neither was he. But had we gone in there and panicked and started impulsively throwing things around and trying to make decisions and reacting rather than responding, people could have got hurt. He could have got hurt, and it would have been an overall difficult situation to deal with. And we teach that a lot in our defensive tactics and use of force, is staying calm, staying ready. Don't be complacent, but don't panic yourself. Don't ever get to a point where you can't be in control of your emotions, because that's when you're going to run into a lot of issues. That calmness, like I said, allows clear decision making and eliminates panic. Because if we start to panic, we pretty much lose sight of who we are and the mission that we've set forth to uphold within the jail. And not only there, but within our family. When you are getting married to your spouse, you have vows that you say. I vow to stand with you through sickness and health. I vow to protect you and to serve you and to help you and to love you. And those are vows that we need to uphold. And when we allow our emotions to get the best of us, to get into that condition black, to get into a state of no return, we hinder those vows. We are going against them. We are not living up to what we said that we were going to do. And that calmness allows for clear decision making and prevents panic from completely taking over. I can think of a time when I was driving with my dad, and I was a new driver, and we were driving in the rain, and it was coming down like cats and dogs. I could hardly see the road, and I told my dad, I can't see, and I started to panic a little bit, as some of you may have before. Whether it's in maybe it was a thick winter storm too, or something to where you're driving and you all of a sudden can't see anything, and it gets really scary for a little bit. Your window's fogging up or frosting up. But in this specific situation, it was raining, pouring down rain. And I couldn't see anything. Dad, I can't see. Dad, I can't see. And I was panicking. And he said, yes, you can. Just keep your eyes on the lines. And you have the fog line and you have the center line. And you can see far enough ahead to where you can drive safely. It's blurred. It's obscured vision, but it's you can still see. And the same can be said for these emotions that come through our mind when we're faced with them. Enter in and they obscure our vision to what we should be doing. They blur it out, that the decision making kind of goes out the window, and we start reacting to things and we start going, I can't see. And we end up in worse off situations than we would have been had we just taken a deep breath, looked at the fog line and the center line, and refocused and said, I can see. It's just a little fuzzy right now, but we're gonna be okay. Taking those deep breaths, that tactical breathing and working through it. And I also remember growing up too, when the weather got really bad, we were driving and my dad would turn the radio up to kind of distract his mind from the stressfulness of the situation. And sometimes we do need that distraction. Sometimes it's coming home and it's listening to music, or it's spending time with our family and our friends to kind of forget about work. Or maybe it's reading a book, or maybe it's going to the gym, working out, whatever it is that you do to stay sharp, which I've talked about a lot with my guests that come on here. But finding what it is to kind of hone in and focus on that calmness within the storm. A lot of times we get stressed out to the point where we are burnt out and then we can't function. I think burnout is the result of reacting to so many things and not being able to respond anymore. Something that I think a lot more people should take seriously, and to find those moments of calmness within their life, to be able to forget about the different things that are going on and find peace with them, to be able to fill your cup up again so that you can continue to pour out to other people, whether it's your family, whether it's your work, whether it's your friends. Something that we can do to calm the mind. The ability to remain calm is a superpower. Calm doesn't mean indifferent, it means staying rooted so you can respond wisely over reacting emotionally. Out in the world, on the job, or at home, staying calm can mean the difference between destruction and direction. Staying calm can mean the difference between destruction and direction. The destruction of your relationship, the destruction of your job, the destruction of whatever it is you have going on in the world, or the direction of your relationship. It can change the direction of your job. It can change the direction of whatever else you have going on in the world. What are some areas in your life where you'd benefit from responding over reacting? Is it at work? Is it at home? Is it at church? Is it while you're driving to work or those places? Is it with your kids or your wife or your friends? What would it look like to pause, breathe, and choose response over reacting? What would it look like in your life? What would it look like in my life to respond with calmness in each and every situation and decision that I'm faced with? Maybe you're looking for a new home. Maybe you're trying to buy a new car. Maybe you're looking for a new job. Maybe you're out in the middle of the lake and you don't have a life jacket on and you're trying to swim back to the boat. Panic ensues. You know, it can be something extremely serious. It can be something to, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Sometimes anxiety takes over and it just ruins everything. But taking a second to just breathe it out. Courtney just started teaching yoga classes again at Takedown Gym. If you're not a member there, you should be, and you should come to our classes. It's amazing. During the classes, it gets really hot because it is a yoga sculpt class. So you have the heat in there, and she's directing you through all these different moves where you're just sweating and you're trying to work through them. And sometimes panic can come in. Myself, I have sports-induced asthma, so there's times where I struggle to breathe or my blood sugar's off a little bit because I'm just sweating my butt off. Sometimes panic can kind of creep in where it's like, I can't do this. I don't think I can do this. Taking that deep breath, taking a second, maybe you got to take a knee. And I've done that with Corbin too. There's times where we're working out and doing a deadlift or doing an RDL, and it's just completely depletes you, and you just take a knee for a second. And instead of reacting to your emotions and your impulse and saying, you know what, forget it, I quit, I give up, I can't do this, I'm walking out, see you at home, Court. This is too hot, this is too difficult. Sometimes we just need to take a second, take that knee, take a deep breath, and get after it. And at the end of her yoga classes, they do this thing. And if you've ever been in a yoga class, this final resting phase, this final resting pose, shavasana is what they call it. And it's a moment where you're laying there after stretching, after you just worked your butt off, after you just sweat every ounce of liquid out of your body. Court goes around and she puts these cooling towels right next to you, and you can put them on your head to kind of cool off and to kind of breathe. And you don't have to think about anything else but those couple minutes where class isn't quite done yet. So you don't, so you're still in class, but you don't have anywhere else to be yet. And you just take those moments to find calmness after just going through the fire of life. And, maybe you just got laid off. Maybe there was something very serious that occurred in your life that emotions are really tied into, and we can react to those emotions and just make things worse, or we can respond to them calmly and try to figure out how we can move on together through that time. There's a lot on my mind, and it's really cool to reflect on and think about. So again, like I said, if you have an opinion on this, if you have any questions, if you have something you want to add or a perspective that you would like to bring to my attention, I would love to hear about it. Again, because I get better, we all get better by helping each other stay sharp and helping each other through this thing that we call life. With that, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Iron Purpose podcast. Stay sharp, everybody.